What's happening, fishing friends? I am super excited because today we're taking a look at what I think could be the best reel of the year, the brand new Daiwa Tatula SV100. Enough yapping, let's take a closer look. Of course, as with all my reel videos, I'll go over the specifications, the features of this really quick, kind of explain the ones that I think are important. I'll compare this reel to some of the other Daiwa reels in the lineup because there's really some things I want to point out. And lastly, we'll go over what I think are the real pros and cons of this reel. So enough yapping. What are the features of this? Well, number one, the first thing is that it's a pretty average weight. It's sub 7 ounces. So this is a 6.9 ounce reel. And I think anything in that mid 6 to kind of low 7 is pretty standard for a reel. You know, once they start getting magnesium and some of these other things, they can get it down below, you know, into the 5 ounce. But it doesn't bother me too much. Around 7 ounces, I think, is a great all-around reel weight. And this does come in both right and left-handed versions, 6.3, 7.1, and 8.1 to 1 gear ratios. And it's got enough line capacity for what it's meant to do. This holds 100 yards of 14-pound line. So that's talking like your, you know, your mono, fluoro, something around in there. Of course, your braid will be a little bit thinner. You can hold more. So what are the big features of this? Well, the big thing they've been showing and talking about at this is the hyperdrive system, and it's a couple different things. And the first thing you notice when you pick this up, it is buttery smooth, super smooth in there. And what they've done with the main gear inside here is they've made the teeth a little bit larger. And what that means, it gives it more surface area. So on some of the other, you know, older ones, it's not that they're not smooth, but, you know, after a while to kind of get that geary feeling, it's almost like the gears are kind of just barely touching. What they've said they've done with this is they've made the teeth bigger. So as the main gear interacts with that pinion gear, it gets a little bit more solid kind of weld or grab into it as those gears are turning and going around. And you can feel the difference. It is super smooth. Take that side plate off, drop my spool out. You can just barely see it around the outside edge there. Can I get it to focus? There we go. See that silver around that? That brass piece there, that's your pinion gear. And that silver thing around it, that's a bearing. So that's one bearing. And then the other piece of the pinion sits in your handle side plate bearing that's inside here under your zero adjuster. So that's what helps keep this in line, keep that spool straight inside there so it's not moving and wobbling around. It's got two bearings on each side, which is awesome. They say this also has the Dura clutch. I don't know as much about that. There's diagrams and you can look at, but essentially they say they've buffed up the clutch here. So when you push this down, your thumb bar supposed to last longer, be smoother over time. Same thing for the main gear with that DigiGear. They said, you know, as those teeth wear, with them having more contact area, they're not supposed to wear as quick. So, you know, some of the older Daiwas they said you might have for a year, especially like the higher speed ones, you know, as you work them throughout the year, they might get a little bit rougher. But with this new DigiCut gear, they said that it is supposed to last and stay smoother longer. Now, the other big thing and big feature that they've talked about this is, well, it's in the name, the SV spool. This isn't just a normal regular SV spool. This is the SV boost spool. So normal SV spool, the cone just kind of comes out. So it goes in one direction. With this one, as the spool turns, it pushes this out. So it comes out easier under less inertia, and it comes out a little bit farther into like a second stage. I have no way of like measuring this and showing you this. Like I said, you can look online and look at diagrams, but essentially as you cast at the first part of the cast where it's the hardest, where you throw it, that's when that spool really goes. It's at its maximum rotation right away. So this thing kicks all the way out. Now, as your lure starts to go and it kind of starts to taper off and get a little bit slower, the spool kind of clicks back into this first spot and backs down and then goes all the way back in. So the more braking power you need, this pushes out farther into your side plate here. I guess I should explain this if you don't know Daiwa brakes. I think this is the best braking system on the market. So when you put that in there, you can see that cone, that induction cone, this thing. You can see that inside there just barely between that side plate and the spool there. As you cast, this piece goes out into these magnets. These gray things here, these are magnets. Goes into that and creates a magnetic, I don't know, I guess what would you call it, an electromagnetic reaction, because alone, this, I don't know if this is aluminum, what this is, but the spool aluminum is not magnetic alone. It's not until you input that motion in it, you get that electromagnetic force that stops this, that slows this spool down. So SV boost spool, this is the same one, and the reason this is a big deal is because it's the same one that's in here. So that technology trickling down to the more affordable, quote unquote, affordable reels. Now the last feature of this that people don't talk about enough is the zero adjuster and how the Daiwa brakes work. I just said that I think the Daiwa braking system is the best on the market. And the reason that is because when you get a Daiwa Baitcaster, it doesn't matter what size lure you have. It's not like the older reels, you know, with centrifugal brakes or the regular magnetic brakes, you know, and a ring on the side plate. With these reels, you don't have to click the thumb bar down and set the lure to fall at a certain rate. You don't worry about any of that. These come preset from the factory. So with this spool tension set to, I think, within 1/100th of an inch of touching this spool tension knob. So what this knob does, if you don't know, as you tighten it, it moves this piece in closer to the spool shaft. As you loosen it, it moves it away. So what I tell people is just set this so there's barely any movement. If you look at this spool, this black piece here, compared to that gray piece, look at how much this moves. I'll try to get my finger out of the way. Just the tiniest bit of movement in there, and that's what you want. You want it to be just so there's the tiniest bit of movement. You don't want to tighten this too much where it's stopping this from moving back and forth. Ideally, you want this to not have any tension on that spool, but you don't want it to be so loose that it rattles back and forth a lot. So to set this, doesn't matter what size lure, get that set so there's just barely any side-to-side play or movement in there, and that's it. Leave it. You don't have to even touch it because all the braking adjustment is done here, which makes these brakes awesome. So I can throw a light lure. If I go to a heavier lure, need a little bit more braking power, I can turn it up. I don't need to worry ever about, again, touching the spool tension knob. So, you know, you're not always trying to dial this in. Once you get that set, just move your brakes here. They do also tell you that this has the ultimate tournament drag, I think is what a UTD, which really just means it's got a carbon fiber drag washer in there. It's also got like your spacers, your like aluminum, whatever, spacers in there, which is good. It's not the old felt ones that can rip. These are what a lot of people upgrade to anyway, has that carbon fiber. So good solid drag. It's got a great spool in it for casting and what I think is the best braking system on the market now. What does all that mean in terms of the Daiwa lineup? Because this got really interesting to me. So what I wanted to do was compare this one, this brand new Tatula 100 SV, to some of the older models. This is the old Daiwa Tatula 100, the first one I got. This came out in like, what, 2019, I think this one came out. Did not have the lighter, you know, cooler SV spool. Regular spool there. It does still have the mag. I think they call these the mag force brakes. There's air rotor, SB, AB something. There's minor changes in a couple of these as they go up. Really, it's kind of like a fine tuning some of these to the spring in here, more or less tension. There's some other things that I don't really understand. You'd have to really get in the weeds, but the big thing with this spool, and just like the regular MagForce Z brakes, this doesn't spin, this piece here. So like on the SV Boost, that spins, pops out. This just comes out. So as you cast, it goes out and goes back in. So not quite as good as the SV, but still, this is a great, even, you know, at light lures, this old 100 was awesome at doing that. I recommended that to a lot of people. A lot of people picked it up and said, dude, this thing is awesome with light stuff. So that's the first gen. Next up, we have the new Tatula 100, and this is the one that came out last year. This is where I'm going to talk about some of the pros and cons. I've been confused because I've heard different stories from people of what this is actually replacing. I heard somebody at iCast said that this is replacing the old 100. And that's really strange because this just came out last year, and I get this is a, you know, a slightly better reel, but this reel is $179. This reel originally came out at $159. So it went from $159 to $179 to the new Tatula 100 that came out last year to this one at $219. So very interesting to me. But anyway, with this one, still had the hyperdrive system, so the better gear, and you can tell this one is super smooth as well. That upgraded main gear, but if we pop the side plate out and look at this again, not an SV spool. So this did not have the SV system in it, which I'm okay with at 100, and I wish they could have kept it at 160 bucks. Excellent value, I think, for this Tatula. I love this reel. I was just talking to somebody about this, and I thought I already did the kind of unboxing, showing / review of this. I never even did that video. Had the reel coming up on a year. I actually got 2 of these, and I have absolutely loved it. So great reel there. This was the first year they redid that frame of it. It's got the little indentation there where your thumb sits. I could take it or leave it. It's fine either way, but they did shrink this down a little bit, and that's kind of been the thought process behind this with the 100. Something a little bit smaller, a little bit more palmable. You can see this one here is a little bit larger. They drop it down just a little bit here, and then we get to this one that is actually just a tiny bit smaller as well. A little bit different color, that kind of gunmetal, satiny, gray. Is that what you would call it? I don't know. So then, very similar to this one, and this is the one that I thought it was actually replacing. I thought this was going to replace this. This is the SV103. So this was a $199 reel. Omnia had these on sale for I think 99 bucks. Tackle Warehouse had like a daily sale and stuff. So they're getting rid of these. And that's, you know, a pretty telltale sign that, okay, they're coming out with a new version of this because it's half off and they're trying to get rid of the old ones. Well, I've heard that it's, yes, also replacing this one and replacing this one. So that continues to baffle me because we'll talk about prices here in a second. But again, this was the $200 one, the SV103, because this is the one that kicked in that regular SV spool. So it didn't have the boost, does still twist and turn, which is great, but that boost kind of gives it this extra second piece. So kind of this 1 and 2 stages of the spring instead of just kind of one tension. This SV, this one, how many times am I going to say SV and Tatula in this video? Oh my gosh. Anyway, this one has that 2-stage, this one did not. So this is even a little bit of an upgrade over this one. If we go out to the Daiwa site, I'm going to start at the Fuego. So that's $119. The other ones that are below that, those have like the regular braking, not the actual Daiwa braking and stuff. So we're going to start at the Fuego, $119. The Tatula CT used to be $120, that's $150 now. The Daiwa Tatula 200, I've heard that one's still staying, so at $179. And that's where I think the $100 reels are going to stop, because they're saying that this Daiwa Tatula 100 is getting replaced by the new one, and the Daiwa Tatula 150 is also getting replaced by the new version, the SV150. So if that's the case, we're going to start at the Daiwa Tatula 80, the SV103, which is no more. That one's going to be replaced. Everything else is above $200. So from $100 to $200, the only 3 reels they're going to have is a Fuego, a Tatula CT, and a Tatula 200. Let me tell you, folks, when I heard that, I was quite upset, because some of these reels at this price, you know, 150, 60, even if they have to keep it at 170, I can see people buying that. Going from 150 up to 220 is quite a chunk of change, and if they're eliminating everything in between there, I find that very, very strange. So that's the first con, is price. This is an excellent reel. What you're getting for the money in here, the SV boost spool, the hyperdrive, the dual supported pinion gear, everything makes for an excellent experience at 220 bucks. But cutting all the other stuff out from under it, I don't know. That kind of leads into the second con, is lineup. You know, people will say, how many Tatulas do they need? Well, each one kind of fits its own certain spot, and going from regular Tatulas and just moving those out to the upgraded, again, seems weird to me. So the lineup, I think, could certainly have a very large missing piece. To me, Daiwa already misses out at the $99 price point. They're not even in the talks. That's between the LFS and the SLX. So bumping the Fuego up even 20 bucks, to me, it's just, you know, why? Why do that? So I don't know if it's prices of, you know, aluminum. I noticed the old 150, that one had an aluminum frame and a handle side plate. Supposedly that's going away. So I don't know. That to me is weird. So those are the big 2 cons. The pros, number one, like I already touched on, the value for what you're getting. 220 bucks. This is getting really, really eerily close to a zillion, right? I mean, you look at the frame, you look at the, you know, what you're getting inside of it, a lot of the same stuff for over $100 less for this one. So that's the first thing. Number 2 is feel, fit and feel in hand. Daiwa reels always feel good. There might be a little bit of rattling. I think that's always because of the T-wing system. It's always kind of got a little bit of a rattle to it. I've noticed that over, you know, some of the other brands, but I think the T-wing system in there, that's something I didn't even touch on, the T-wing. If you don't know what that is, as you press the thumb bar down, it opens this up with that kind of wider mouth. Then as you click it over, it pushes that back, and then your line runs between there. So it's supposed to give your line a little bit freer casting back and forth. I think it does help a little bit, but I think it's really all this combined is what makes the big difference. And the third big pro this year, I think, is castability and the ease of that castability. I kind of put it together. As I've said, Daiwa brakes, hands down, I think are the best. You don't need a DC chip. You don't need, there's some of these crazy $400 reels that like you have to charge it and it sends stuff to your phone. Like, what a joke. I don't want to mess with that. Or, oh, well, it's sort of water safe. Like, hello, this is a fishing reel. It's probably going to get wet and drop somewhere. So with these, there's no friction on the brake, so it's not, you know, a centrifugal brake that can wear down or is noisy. With this, is, you know, as long as you do your regular maintenance, and this one actually came greased. That is one thing that I've had before, is Daiwa reels have come bone dry. I don't know why. This one is extremely lubed, as you see when I opened this up and showed you the pinion. Grease all over, it was great. So that helps keep this smooth, but those brakes, once you get them dialed in, they're amazing. I mean, you just change it from here. You don't backlash, you know, casting into the wind and stuff. You can easily adjust this on the fly. As with some centrifugal brakes, you have to have that centrifugal force pushing those arms out. So they're just a little bit harder to dial in for folks, especially if you're a beginner, but you're probably not a beginner dropping 220 bones on a reel. But anyway, the ease of castability of this. I want to do some casting tests, maybe some distance stuff, because it was really interesting that I noticed that this spool isn't as light as the regular non-SV spool. So I found that very interesting. I figured it would have been, you know, lighter. That's what they say. This SV really comes in is for your slightly lighter stuff, you know, maybe up to 3/8 I would say, and lighter down to probably 3/16 you should be fine throwing this on, quarter. But it's meant for that lighter stuff. So this isn't meant for heavy braid, you know, frogging, stuff where you need more spool depth and line capacity. It's meant for kind of that lighter stuff, or just for ease of casting. If you're throwing a, you know, a 3/8 ounce jig or even a 1/2 ounce jig on this, just ease of flipping it around is great. But excellent overall reel. But comment below, I want to know, what do you all think of this reel, especially compared to some of these other ones? Do you like it for what it is? Maybe is the price gonna turn you away a little bit? Do you have questions about their lineup? I actually want to get somebody from Daiwa on a live, go through all this. I think that would be really cool to talk about some of these features, some of their technology, and kind of their lineup going forward. I don't know how much they can talk about, but at least maybe get some of the understanding of what is staying and what's going. So let me know what you think. Is it a good reel? Yes, no? I'm interested to hear what you all think of this reel. I'm really excited about it. I got to take it out, play with it in the backyard, and cast it a little bit before I took the line off so I could weigh it and show you all this stuff in here. But great reel. I've already had the previous versions. No doubt in my mind that it was going to be a good reel. But that price upgrade and some of the other things has me kind of wondering what Daiwa was doing and what their kind of future outlook is. This would be my dream job, talking fishing gear all day. If I could, you know, be one of these, I don't know, designer or somebody that gets to talk the gear. So comment below and let me know, what other reel would you like to see, you know, a review, a breakdown of. A lot of people have said that new Lew's Custom Pro, whatever, the gold reel. It's like a $279 reel though. But a lot of people have been interested in that one. iCast this year was pretty slim on the budget stuff. It's kind of disheartening. I don't know. I don't know if it's because of prices and, you know, and all that stuff for materials, if stuff's going up, but I guess everything in the world is. That's the way we are right now. But anyway, comment below, let me know. I love y'all. Can't wait to do some more of these gear review breakdowns. So thanks for watching, and until next time.